They heard down and the rhythm was near.
It feels like a good day to listen to things the wrong way around.
It really does. As the Beatles went psychedelic, fans started hearing some strange things. Or that's what they thought.
Right, backwards vocals and instruments, hidden meanings.
And, if you were listening to pop radio in, say, 1966, you could be forgiven for thinking something was seriously wrong with your radio.
Or with your own mind, maybe. The sounds were just so alien.
But the thing I find so fascinating about this whole technique, one of the most game-changing production tricks in history, is that it didn't start in a lab with scientists.
Oh, not at all. It wasn't some genius plan, at least not at first. It started with John Lennon being very tired and very, very stoned.
Okay, let's get into that, because we think of the Revolver-era Beatles as these studio wizards, which they were.
Totally. They were rewriting all the rules.
But the big bang of backmasking was really just a clumsy mistake, wasn't it?
It was a complete accident. You have to picture it. It's April 1966, and they're recording the song Rain.
Which is already a pretty heavy, sludgy track, kind of proto-Britpop.
Exactly. It's got this immense weight. So John asks for a rough mix on a reel-to-reel tape to take home and listen to.
Now, threading a reel-to-reel machine is not like, popping in a CD. It takes a bit of focus.
A bit of dexterity, yeah, which John Lennon did not have at that moment. He said himself he was stoned out of his mind.
So he gets home, tries to thread the tape.
And he puts it on backward. Just completely threads it the wrong way, doesn't even realize. He sits back, puts his headphones on, and expects to hear rain.
And instead, this just wall of sound hits him.
A ghostly droning noise is how he described it. The attack of every instrument was reversed, so everything sounded like it was sweeping in from nowhere.
Most people would just hit stop and fix it.
But not John. He was mesmerized. He sat there and listened to the whole thing backwards, over and over. He was convinced it was the greatest thing he'd ever heard.
So, of course, the next day, he marches into Abbey Road.
And tells George Martin, we have to do this. The whole song needs to be backward.
Which is classic Lennon, find a new toy, use it on everything.
Right. Thankfully, George Martin was the voice of reason. He talked him down from doing the entire track. They compromised.
What was the compromise?
They took the vocal from the very last verse of Rain and just flipped that section. So the last 30 seconds of the song. It's John's voice, but it's like this melodic alien gibberish.
And what you're hearing there is actually the first line of the song.
Yeah. If the rain comes, they run and hide their heads.
Yeah.
But totally reversed. The phonetics are scrambled. It sounds like a strange incantation.
And that one accident, that one moment, just opens the floodgates.
It's the shift.
Yeah.
It goes from a mistake to an intentional artistic tool. They start using the studio as an instrument itself.
Which takes us from, oops, I put the tape on wrong, to how can we literally build a sound that can't exist in the real world? And for me, the peak of that is I'm Only Sleeping.
Oh, this is where it gets so technically complex and just mind-bending.
Because with Rain, they just flipped a recording. Easy enough. But with I'm Only Sleeping, George Harrison wanted a guitar solo that sounded like it was, melting?
Exactly. That was his word for it. Dreamy, disorienting, melting. But you can't just play a normal solo and reverse it.
Right, because the melody would be backward. It wouldn't fit the chords of the song anymore. It would just be noise.
It would be a total mess. So George had to become this sort of musical time traveler. He had to solve a puzzle. First, he composes the solo he wants to hear, the forward melody.
Okay, step one.
Step two, he has to transcribe that entire solo note for note, but backward.
Wow.
Step three, he then has to learn to play that backward version, which is incredibly unnatural for any musician. The phrasing, the feel, it's all wrong.
My brain is hurting just thinking about that.
It's like trying to say a sentence backwards, so when you rewind it, it sounds normal. So he records himself playing this backward piece of music. Then, the final step, they reverse that tape.
And the melody comes out in the correct order, fitting the song.
But the physics of the sound are inverted. A normal guitar note has a sharp attack, that pluck, then it fades away.
Sure.
This way you hear the fade in first, the note swells up from nothing and then snaps off abruptly. That's the melting sound. That's what gives it that sucking quality.
It's one of the most incredible guitar sounds ever recorded. And once they figured that out, they just kept pushing it.
Oh, yeah. By Tomorrow Never Knows, the whole track is a tapestry of loops and reversed sounds.
There's that one sound in there. People say it sounds like seagulls screaming.
Yes, I love pointing that one out. It's not seagulls. It's not a guitar. It's Paul McCartney.
No way.
Yes. They just recorded him laughing maniacally into a microphone. Pure, unhinged laughter. Then they sped the tape way up and reversed it. And that's your Seagull Storm.
That's amazing. They were just using anything as an instrument. Laughter, cymbals.
Which brings us to Strawberry Fields Forever.
If I'm Only Sleeping is the technical peak. Strawberry Fields is the emotional one. Here, the technique is perfectly married to the theme. The song is about memory, about nostalgia. Nothing is real.
Exactly. It's about this dreamlike, hazy state of looking back. And the percussion, especially the cymbals, they just feel wrong. They feel like they're pulling you backwards.
That sucking effect again.
Right. A cymbal crash is an explosion of sound. But reversed, it's a vacuum. It builds from silence to a sharp snap. It's disorienting. It literally sounds like you're being pulled back into a memory.
It's incredible storytelling through sound design.
It really is.
But, the Beatles weren't the first people ever to think about playing audio in reverse. There's a darker, more strange history to it.
There is. You had avant-garde composers in the 50s, the whole music concrete movement, playing with tape loops. But that was high art stuff. Pretty unlistenable for most people.
The Beatles brought it to the masses. But there was also this occult connection, wasn't there?
There was. All the way back in 1913, the occultist Aleister Crowley suggested that a way to train the mind to think backwards was to listen to phonograph records in reverse.
To unlock some kind of spiritual power.
That was the idea. And of course, people love to point out that Crowley's face is right there on the cover of the Sgt. Pepper album.
Which John Lennon put there.
He did, but we should be clear. John put him there because he saw him as a rebel, a provocateur, not because the band was in the studio conducting backward rituals.
Right. But that connection, however tenuous, it sort of laid the groundwork for all the hysteria that was to come.
Oh, absolutely. Which brings us to October 1969, the Paul is Dead hoax. This is where it all stops being fun art and starts being treated as evidence.
The story really explodes after a caller on a Detroit radio station tells the DJ, Russ Gibb, that Paul McCartney died in '66 and was replaced by a look-alike.
And the proof was hidden on the records, if you play them backward.
And suddenly teenagers everywhere are ruining their vinyl, spinning it backward with their fingers, trying to hear these messages.
It was mass hysteria.
Yeah.
And the number one piece of evidence for a lot of people was on the White Album, Revolution 9.
Number 9.
Number 9. That chant. It's a pretty unsettling track to begin with, but fans swore that if you play number 9 backward, it said, "Turn me on, dead man."
And if you listen for it, you can kind of hear it.
You can. And then there's "I'm so tired." At the very end, John just mumbles some exhausted gibberish, play it backward, and fans heard, "Paul is dead, man. Miss him. Miss him."
So what's going on here? Were these messages really there?
Well, this is where we get into the science of it. There's a psychological phenomenon called pareidolia.
That's like seeing faces in clouds or Jesus on a piece of toast, right?
Exactly. Our brains are hardwired to find patterns, to find meaning in random noise. If I tell you to listen for a specific phrase in static, your brain will start to assemble that phrase from the noise. You'll hear it because you're expecting to hear it.
So the Beatles didn't put the messages there. The fans' own brains did.
Precisely. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But this idea, this quirk of the brain, it took a much darker turn in the 70s and 80s.
The Satanic Panic.
Yes. It went from a harmless rumor about Paul McCartney to this serious moral panic about satanic mind control.
Suddenly, it wasn't just clues, it was commands.
Right. Religious groups were convinced rock bands were hiding subliminal messages to brainwash kids. You had Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven being accused of hiding the phrase, "Here's to my sweet Satan."
And it even ended up in court. Judas Priest was sued over claims their music had backward messages that led 2 teens to suicide.
A case they won, of course. The judge found there was no evidence. But it just shows how powerful and terrifying this idea of hidden influence became.
It's so wild to go from a stoned accident in a living room to a courtroom drama about Satanism. But the Beatles, true to form, kind of got the last laugh.
They really did. They always had a great sense of humor about their own mythology. So in 1995, when they released Free as a Bird,
built around an old John Lennon demo.
Yeah. They decided to have a little fun with it. They intentionally put a backward message at the very end of the song.
Yeah.
Just for the conspiracy theorists.
What does it say?
If you reverse it, it's a clip of John Lennon's voice saying, "Turned out nice again."
Turned out nice again. That's perfect. Just a little wink to everyone who spent decades destroying their records.
It's the ultimate Easter egg. And that's where backmasking really is today.
Yeah.
It's not about Satan or dead bass players.
Right.
It's an artistic tool. Or it's used for censorship, like reversing a swear word for the radio. Or it's artists like Pink Floyd or ELO just hiding little jokes for their biggest fans.
So this whole journey, it starts with an accident, becomes a groundbreaking art form, fuels a global conspiracy, a moral panic, and then just ends as a playful inside joke.
That's the legacy.
Yeah.
The Beatles proved that a mistake can be revolutionary. And they proved that if you give people a mystery, their own minds will create the most incredible stories.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Whenever you feel like knowing more about the Beatles, visit us at BeatlesRewind.com. It's the Beatles. All day, every day, 8 days a week. Cass, we'll do it again tomorrow.
See you then.
Until next time, when you listen.
Your mind conducts its own symphony.